Good afternoon and welcome. My name is Lynn Mattis and I'm an alumni coordinator at Mohawk College. Thank you so much for joining for today's alumni panel in honor of Black History Month. We are very excited to have 6 Mohawk College graduates participating in this important discussion. Before we get started, while we are gathering in a virtual environment, I would like to take a moment to honor the land we are on and those who shared it before us. Mohawk College campuses and where I reside here in Mississauga is situated on the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe nations within lands protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement and is currently home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island. Recognizing there remains much work to be done in improving this relationship, I understand it is important to actively work to unlearn my own bias, be open to learning and listening, and continue to grow my knowledge and understanding of history and Indigenous cultures. It is now my pleasure to introduce our moderator for today's Black History Month panel, Catherine Crooks. Catherine is a Mohawk College graduate of the Business Program and Business Administration. In addition, Catherine holds a Bachelor of Science degree in Biochemistry from the University of the West Indies, a Certificate of Teaching Higher Education from Harvard University, and is currently pursuing her master's degree in education at Brock University. During her studies at Mohawk, she received the Mohawk College Silver Medal and the Bill Stoddard Scholarship. Catherine was also a project assistant and a dedicated peer mentor and peer tutor. Returning to Mohawk in 2018, she is now a full-time math instructor and a member of the Business Administration Program Advisory Committee. In 2014, Catherine founded a nonprofit, Charity Chicks Hamilton, that provides direct care for the homeless in the downtown core. Catherine was named a Mohawk College Alumni of Distinction Award recipient, as well as a Women Who Rocks in 2019. In 2020, she received the Excellence in Adult Teaching Award from the Adult Basic Education Association for her work with students in the Academic Upgrading Department. Welcome, Catherine, and thank you so much for moderating today's panel. I will pass the microphone over to you.
Thank you so much, Lynn. And once again, I just want to welcome everybody. Thank you so much for being here today and sharing space with me and my fellow alumni panel members. We want to hear your stories, not just the stories of challenge, but the resilience and the courage that goes along as forming part of this very important discussion around Black history, being Black in Canada. Before we get started, I just wanted to encourage all of the guests to feel free to add any questions you have for our panelists into the chat box throughout the discussion, because we will be providing time at the end for a question and answer period, okay? So without further ado, I'd like to introduce today's panel members. Amber Richardson is a 2014 graduate of Mohawk College's Public Relations Postgraduate Certificate Program following her marketing diploma. She currently owns and operates Communicate PR, an independent PR agency, and is also the past chair for the Hamilton Hive, where she takes an active role in helping young professionals learn, connect, and grow to help them reach their goals. Heston Tobias is a lifelong resident of Hamilton and a 2018 graduate of Mohawk College's Postgraduate Certificate in Business Analysis. Heston is an application specialist at Hamilton Health Sciences, where he currently works on Project Odyssey, which is HHS's development and implementation of a new health information system. Alex Paris graduated from the Recreation Leadership Program at Mohawk College in 1990. He began working at the college as a student employee and has held various roles in athletics and recreation, the Police Foundation's academic program, and now works in planning and program services. Alex has represented Mohawk College as a Black Canadian Coaches Association member, has co-chaired the college's Black History Month committee, and is presently a member of the Mohawk College Corporate Services Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Subcommittee. Lucas Lubin is a proud 2012 graduate of Mohawk's journalism program. He converted an internship with CBC News Network into an associate producer position for the Broadcasting Corporation's News Now program. Lessons learned in seeking truth and helping others were transferred into his lifelong dream of becoming a sworn police officer for the Hamilton Police Service. Lucas is currently assigned to the Youth and School Office in the city's core. Kendra Ebbankler graduated from Mohawk College in 2018 from the Child and Youth Care Program and is currently working in an elementary school classroom as an educational assistant through the Hamilton-Wentworth District School Board. Kendra is also employed with Linwood Charlton Center as a child and youth worker, working with youth who are experiencing extreme mental health challenges on a daily basis. A very warm welcome to you, my fellow alumni. Thank you so much for being here today. So, to kick off our discussion, I'd like to ask the group, what does Black History Month mean to you? And why is it so important for Canadians to know and talk about Black history?
For me, it's an exciting time to do two things. One is to look back and to recognize a strength that has taken place to allow, myself and our panelists and others to be successful. There was a struggle. It also is an opportunity to educate. One of the things, Catherine, that you've alluded to several times is Canadian Black history. We fail to educate and acknowledge our history is a lot different than the American history. And to be able to recognize and understand and educate and celebrate our own history, our own now and our own future is very exciting. And this particular month and the opportunity to celebrate year round is exciting for me to be able to do all that.
Perfect. Thanks, Alex. Anyone else?
Yeah, for me personally, it's I think communication is a big part of this, and I think that by having this month and by acknowledging it, we kind of open a line of communication to have conversations that might be difficult, whether it's by way of posting something on social media or by inviting someone to ask questions or to be with your family. This is a month where I think it's critical that we all just kind of go in with an open mind and learn and constantly learn. At work, we call it block training, where once a year we go in and we relearn things and we sharpen up our skills and we try to be better. And I think having this month is a good time to reflect and see where we've come from and how far we've come, and also acknowledge that we're still moving, that there's still work to be done.
Yeah, it's true. I was especially heartened to see Emancipation Day finally being officially recognized. And, that's very significant because, we're on a journey and, we all know about slavery, but I think more needs to be highlighted in terms of Canada's role, especially Alex, you're from out east, so you would more intimately be aware of Canada's association with things like the Underground Railroad and, a very strong Black community out east, but also, to share with everyone that Hamilton itself also has had, a very strong impact and movement within the Black community. I can mention Stewart Memorial Church as, being one of those very, almost like a mecca for the Black community, for people to go be safe when they needed physical or mental and spiritual support, So it's bringing these things to light, the things that are happening sometimes in our own backyard that we aren't aware of, so this is awesome. Anybody else?
Yeah, just, I really like both what Lucas and Alex said, especially regarding just how layered the experiences could be as a Black Canadian, right? One thing I think of is like kind of we're all part of the African diaspora in a way, but it varies based off of our different individual stories, right? Like being, especially if you're celebrating Canadian Black history, it's very layered. You could have different backgrounds. You could come from the Caribbean. You could be parents of the Caribbean, which I am. You could be Black Canadian, where your roots are soiled in Canada for hundreds of years. You could have family that came from America. You could have family that came from England, or you could have family that came from Africa, an African country. It really varies. So when I think of the Black diaspora, it's this very interesting collective experience, but at the same time, it's not monolithic. It's a very unique, and there's lots of stories to be told. And one of the things which we're missing out right now in the pandemic is normally every year I go to the J.C. Holland Awards. We don't have that right now because of the pandemic, but it's something it's a beautiful event to go to and celebrate Black Canadian history.
Interestingly enough, I used to co-chair the John Holland Awards for 2 years. I did, and yes, it's a beautiful, stunning event celebrating Black excellence. So hopefully next year we'll be able to return to the magnificent gala. And I extend an invitation to everyone on the call today. Make sure you go out and support, because Reverend John C. Holland was a pastor of the Stewart Memorial Church, and it was interesting because he could only ever find work as a railway porter back then. And he became one of the strongest advocates for the Black community. There were many stories of, persons going to agencies to seek employment and were being denied employment. And he would march himself to that agency and advocate until, the people got work, especially Black women, because that's another intersectionality again. So yeah, thank you so much for that, Heston, and join us next year. Anyone else before I move on?
Hi, Catherine. Thanks so much for having me. Black History Month for me, and I think, for our whole family, is really a time to reflect on the accomplishments of the Black community. One of the things I look forward to, I do have 2 children that are currently in school, so they come home every day with a different fact, and some, I'm educated every day also. So on what Lucas was saying in regards to education, I feel like a lot of the accomplishments that are being talked about while they were being done didn't necessarily have the communication to seek that praise or give a thank you, or even really acknowledge the accomplishment at the time, since a lot of them are going back where we were more oppressed in this community. So, a great time to educate, a great time to get the children involved, and it's something they really look forward to. So, that's what it means to me and what I enjoy about it, for sure.
Thank you, Amber.
I think for me, kind of like Amber said, Black history is about empowering, especially from a young age. With me being in the school and working with youth at risk, I always like to, encourage and let all the children know that, especially the Black children that I work with, that we're strong too, and we're capable too. And there's so many people and so many inspirations that the children just don't know about yet because they're so young. So I definitely think that it's important to introduce it at that young age, to just let them know that we're capable of going to school, we're capable of getting jobs, we're capable of doing all the things that, we've kind of been suppressed in having acknowledgement for. So I just definitely think it's important to, Amber saying that she has 2 young kids, to just instill it from a young age that I like to use the word capable, because that's what I use with the children, but just we're capable of doing whatever we put our minds to. And sometimes, I feel like in the community, as being a Black person in the community, that I have to work harder to kind of be recognized, to be, what's the word? Not rewarded, but, just to be recognized. And that sometimes we do have to work harder, but it's possible. And, with the right supports, with the right family members, with the right friends, you can, like the kids and us, we can do anything that we put our minds to. So just kind of instilling that from a young age. So that's kind of what it means to me, is just bringing it back to the youth. Because I feel like as a kid, I didn't have that empowerment from a lot of Black figures in my life personally. So I think it's definitely important that I give the children empowerment, and I give them all the encouragement that I can.
Well said, Kendra. I really appreciate that, as we lift each other up and as we begin to speak life into our children, one of the most concerning things for me is the continued practice of streaming in secondary schools. And, it is something that we can only help our kids out of it by empowering them and arming ourselves with the information so that they don't get streamed out of college or out of university. I would like for it to become a norm in Canada that Black kids go to college and university and not it be an exception, So thank you so much for that. I really appreciate that. So my next question, the second part of it actually came from someone who registered for the event today. And so I don't know who it was, but I just wanted to acknowledge that and thank you for it. How does your identity affect the work you do? And what are some of the hurdles or obstacles you've had to overcome?
For me personally, a lot of those challenges they weren't as obvious to me until the summer of 2020. As a police officer coming off the heels of George Floyd and everything else, we, at least myself and so many of my colleagues, realized that was an opportunity to show what we were about. I remember having a conversation with another Black colleague on our way, coincidentally, to one of the demonstrations, and we were told, we were talking, and he had said, "This is our time to show people what we're about and what we do." And for me, in my heart, being a police officer was always about helping people. A lot of it came based off of past experiences that I had, as well as the fact that I wanted to help people. Why that summer was a challenge was because I felt, because of who I was and how I appeared, that there was not really a spot at a table for me. I had a lot of challenges from my own people for what I had done, what I had chosen to do, but I was getting it from everywhere, from younger white people when I'm doing my job. You're on the wrong side. Colored people, why aren't you with us? You're on the wrong side. Why are you not taking me? Why are you not doing this? Why are you not doing that? It became incredibly challenging because what's in your heart, and you want to go out there and you want to do the best that you can, but you don't often get the opportunity. For me, where the reward comes in is when you are able to break down that barrier or that wall and be an individual for someone and share your experience and share what it is that you did. And I remember at one protest, one of the first ones in Gore Park, there was someone was right in my face. "You're on the wrong side. How could you do this? You're a traitor. You don't know what you're doing." And I saw a girl looking at me, and she came over and approached me and she apologized. It was a young Black girl, and she said, "I can't imagine what it's like to be in your shoes right now. And to deal with what you have to do, and will you please walk with me away from this and take a knee?" And we did, and we talked, and that's what this is about. It to me is getting on that level and seeing each other as humans, and learning about each other's struggle, because I had hurt in my heart as well, and I know that what I had seen was wrong, so I know what's in here. So then it becomes difficult when you go out there and what you feel here, but people are telling you that you don't, or that you're doing the wrong thing. So that's been my challenge recently, is just trying to make sure that people, despite what you see or what you might think, that we're here for the right reason, that I'm here for it, and and that I feel what you feel, and that when I leave at the end of the day, I have very similar experiences. I've been followed around by loss prevention in stores. I'm cognizant of where I'm holding my packages. You know, when I'm walking to the checkout, like I'm with you, and I feel all that, and it's a daily, I guess, challenge of trying to balance those things. But that's been a large obstacle as of late, and one that I'm always looking forward to communicating and trying to do better, and trying to get on everybody's page and understand where everybody's coming from.
Lucas, thank you so much for sharing that. You know, because of, you know, the George Floyd, you know, all of these incidents that we've seen over the past several years, you know, and over policing of Black bodies, even in Canada, you know, there is a healthy skepticism. It's not an unreasonable skepticism and mistrust of law enforcement, you know. Thank you for putting yourself out there, and thank you for putting your heart out there, because we need people like you to begin to counter the brutality and the over policing and the, you know what I mean, the carding and all of these things that are happening, right? So I know it must be a heavy weight for you, but I want to acknowledge personally, thank you so much. And I feel safer having you as a member of the Hamilton Police Service. So thank you so much for that. You know, to go from a situation where it used to annoy me, like it used to aggravate me at first, but every time a police officer pulls up behind me when I'm driving, they run the plates, you know. And I've just gotten accustomed to it now. I'm just like, yeah, okay, fine, whatever, do you, you know? So thank you so much for beginning to at least provide a counterbalance, a counter to the negative narrative, okay? Anyone else?
Yeah, I want to go off that because I thank you, Lucas, for sharing your experience. And, you know, funny enough, my career before technology was, I was in academia, and I was doing a master's in cultural studies and critical theory McMaster. And one of the papers that I published with Dr. Emil Joseph at McMaster had to do with looking at the different narratives in the media surrounding carding in Hamilton. And one of the things you realize right off the bat is that when it comes to issues of discrimination, especially racism, is that it has less to do with individual actors, although that is in play, and it has more to do with systems, right? So it's a tricky thing, especially I could only imagine as a Black man to be a police officer, to want to do right in the community, and have, you know, these narratives out there that we know exists where, oh, you shouldn't be a cop because you're a Black man, or you're betraying your community. I can only imagine how hard it is. And you know, I do think that we need more people like you, Lucas, people that are going to reach out to the community, people that are going to be, you know, doing community policing and actually work with the community, because that's vital towards dismantling systems of racism. So I want to say personally, I don't see you as a traitor betraying. I see you as someone doing good, someone making positive change in the community. And I think, you know, when we have criticism of certain organizations in the community, I think it should be nuanced like that and not be so binary to the point where we lose nuance, where we lose actual consideration for the humans that are at play in all these different systems. If we're talking about my experience, just like I know too that like going from humanities to technology, I felt a little guilty too, because I felt like, you know, I could be doing more community work versus working in technology doesn't feel like a lot of community work. And even being just a Black person in technology, there's not a lot of Black people in technology. It's growing, but it's typically known as, you know, a white man's club, to be frank. So just going in that sector, for myself, it was a jump just because I didn't know a lot of people of color in that community. So that's where I'll leave it off. I don't want to take up too much.
Thank you,
time. I know
Heston.
Lynn has something to say.
Thank you, Heston. For anyone who hasn't seen the documentary, Coded Bias is an extreme example of why we need more Black people in tech. Okay, and I'll leave it at that. Kendra, I see you're unmuted. You want to jump in?
Yeah, I wanted to say, just to go off the other two as well, that again, we just need to show people and ourselves, especially our own community, not really prove to other people, but prove to our own community that Black people can be in anything. You know, we can be in tech, we can be in humanities, we can be in anything. Like we're just as capable as everyone else, as working as different fields, and whether that field is tech, whether that field is construction, we're able to do it all. So I think that it's very important for us as Black people to just, you know, disperse and work in different types of fields. I think it's also important to, again, to just show the kids from young ages, you know, that yeah, there can be Black cops, and it's almost something to look forward to when you see a Black police officer, especially for the children. I feel like the Black males that I work with, you know, when they see, you know, Black police officers or Black social workers, I feel like they're more inclined to speak to them, to more inclined to open up to them, because, you know, they're like, okay, this is somebody who's, you know, has the same skin color as me, has been through, you know, maybe similar experiences to me. Maybe they haven't been through any experiences, but I feel more comfortable sharing the things that I've been through, you know, with somebody who relates to me, who kind of looks like me, you know what I mean? I feel personally in my career, working in the education system, I'm seeing a lot more Black staff, but at the school that I worked at last year, I was inner city school. So just downtown Hamilton, inner city, very inner city. I was the only Black staff member there. And I felt, in my heart, there were some days where I felt uncomfortable, not because of the staff, but just because, like, literally I'm the only Black staff here. But there's times where I felt empowered because Black parents would come up to me and talk to me, you know, only me. They would only look for me because they're like, okay, this is a, you know, another Black woman or another Black person that I can seriously, you know, talk to or vent to. I had a lot of the Syrian refugees, their parents would come up and talk to me just because I was a person of color. So again, in times like this, I do feel like I've had to work a little bit harder in terms of being in the school board and being in a place where there's not a lot of Black employees, but it's also been a gift and a blessing in the sense that I feel like all cultures and all races will always kind of gravitate towards me, because, you know, they see a person of color working in the education system, so it just makes them feel a little bit more comfortable to talk to someone. So yes, it's been challenging, but again, it's also been rewarding in the sense that you know, you're recognized in that kind of way and you're validated in that kind of way. So yeah.
I love that, Kendra. I love that. Anyone else want to jump in before I move on?
Yeah, I started here at the college as a student coming back to school when I was 21, and sort of, so from a barriers perspective, one of the things that I found coming back to school was that when I started at Mohawk, there was no one really at the front of the classroom who looked like me. I was on a varsity team and none of the coaches looked like me. So I didn't have the opportunity to come to school at the college level, and then when needed guidance or a shoulder to lean on, I found it difficult because it was hard to talk to individuals in those roles because they've never grown up in the same experiences and you know, have lived the shoes that I've had to walk in. You know, I'm very proud of my children in that my wife is white. So we talk about having someone that looks like you. If you've gone through the gym over the last 5 years, you would have gone past my son working at the front desk. And I can guarantee you 99% of you wouldn't know that that was my son by virtue of the fact that we don't have the same skin color. So we had a long conversation, talking about Black history. What's it like to grow up in Nova Scotia as compared to, living here in Ontario as a Black man. And he took it upon himself to really dive into his own history. What's it like to be a child who has different colored parents? What's my dad's background really like compared to what my mom's life is like? We've had conversations about me leaving the court even within the last month and being pulled over by the police, walking across the street and having elderly women grab their purses a little bit tighter because they think you're going to rob them. So he took it upon himself to really educate himself on Canadian, specifically Black history. So, I commend all of the panelists that are here today, because those are the individuals that are really going to take being a Black Canadian and taking it to the forefront. We live in a very stereotyped society where people think you look like this, so you must do this. Here we are talking about what we can and can't do. What are the barriers? Well, why do we have to have barriers? I want people to look at me with their eyes, but I want them to look at me with their hearts as well. I want them to hear me with their ears, but I also want them to hear me with their minds as well. I'm a very highly educated person, as we all are, but I've spoken to people who are mind boggled by the fact that I have, a college diploma and two degrees by virtue of what they see as compared to what they hear or what they understand of my bringing up. So I applaud those individuals that are part of our panel today. I applaud, those who've registered to be part of this conversation, because it's not a conversation about us. We have this conversation from the day we are born. We meet with our parents at a very early age and talk about what you have to do when you're on the street with, we're having these conversations with our kids. So I also applaud those individuals who have registered for this particular conversation and can take something from this, because it's not about just us. I'm a big proponent of someone's bias and racism has nothing to do with me. You might not like the way I look because of my skin color, but that has nothing to do with me. That's a bias and a level of racism that you have to contend with on a daily basis, not me. I'm very proud of the way I look and the person that I've become over the years. So I applaud everybody who's taken the time and really rely on those panelists, the younger youth of, I'll use the term youth loosely, to really help push and drive Canadian Black history to the forefront. So we're not celebrating it monthly or once a year. We're celebrating daily every month, not just in February.
Thank you, Alex. Amber?
And just to go off the heels of what Alex is saying, in regards to some of the struggles, usually in the past 3 years, let's use for the example, the problems are those stereotypes, what people are reading on the media. I think education goes a long way. And instead of using stereotypes and assuming someone is a certain way or has been through a certain something or hasn't been through something, asking questions and kind of getting to understand different perspectives is really a much more effective and educational way of learning. And also, taking that time to learn, what are we dealing with in Hamilton? What are we dealing with in Ontario and Canada? What is the Americans dealing with? And then what is racism, all over the world. But being just conscious of your locality and what's happening where is important, especially when giving back to the community.
It's well said, Amber. That ties in with what Heston had mentioned about the binary thinking. And, that's part of how the hegemony continues and is enforced. It's in this binary, you're either good or bad, black or white. You know what I mean? There's no allowances for, shades of whatever, right? And so when you think about that, the fact that, looking from a systemic standpoint, that binary thinking leads others or the controllers of the hegemony to believe that there can't be space for you and me. It's either me or you, right? So in a sense, dismantling racism or systems of oppression means my way of life goes away to make way for another dictatorial stance. And I think this is something that we need to begin to sensitize everybody to understand that it's unfortunate, but we too are complicit in these systems of oppression. We participate in them moving forward every day. And, it's when we begin to push off and shatter the stereotypes, it's one of the hashtags of my charity, shatter stereotypes and reclaim our narrative, you know what I mean? Then we will have the strength to begin to move forward. So thank you, everyone. What is one of your proudest accomplishments in your professional life? Okay, I'll lead off. One of the proudest accomplishments in my professional life was in winter 2020, before the world blew up. I was blessed to teach business math in the college. And after class, I think it was the second or the third class, I had a group of Black girls come up to me. They were international students from Nigeria. And they just started to chit chat with me. And one of them confessed that this was her second time doing the course. She hadn't been successful in the previous semesters. And she said, to have a strong Black queen teaching me has put me in a position where I know now it is unacceptable for me to fail. And I cried. I didn't know what else to do because I'm a girl. And it was just beautiful because she says, up until this point, I've never seen somebody like me teaching me, So to understand that power right there. Everybody's speechless. Lucas, go.
I've been fortunate to have a few moments just getting to go to work every single day and do what I love. For me personally is an achievement. I'm exactly where I want to be. I have great support. I have a phenomenal partner, and every day I get to go to work, especially in this youth and school office, and interact with young people. And especially doing it downtown, a lot of young Black people. So there's a lot of big achievements, but one of the ones that's key for me was actually within the first year. We were involved in a foot pursuit and ended up catching the guy. His girlfriend was Black and back of the car and young. And these are the moments that to me are important and why I did what we did. Because as many people have touched on this earlier, there seems to be this template of what the Black experience is or should be, from a very young age. And I was challenged on that by this young Black woman that day. And I had been on the job for maybe 3 months. And what she said to me was, you don't know what it's like. You don't know what it's like to be Black. You have this job, you speak well, you're clearly educated, you probably have a nice house, and your dad was in your life the whole time. And you had a nice supportive family. Well, I don't have that. I'm really Black. And that broke my heart that somewhere, and again, this is the systemic thing that we talk about, that we have been led to believe that if you speak properly or you dress a certain way or you were fortunate to have a traditional family, that you did not have the Black experience. And having to have her unfortunately in handcuffs in the back of my car gave me an opportunity to say to her, like, we can do better. And I'm sorry that has been what your experience was. And it breaks my heart to hear you say that you think that's what being Black is. But I'm here because I chose to be, and I worked hard, and you can be wherever you need to be, because you can work hard and you can do these things as well. And those are achievements to me, getting to have those conversations. If I'm sure that at the end of it, or there was any sort of small chance that I might have got through to somebody, that being Black is not what the media has told you. It's not what your friends might have told you. It's not about doing things that you think are Black. It's about knowing where you've come from and where you're going, and knowing that you have the strength inside you to do all those things and overcome those things.
Beautifully said, Lucas.
Just going off with what Lucas said, W.E. Du Bois wrote a collection of short stories, and collectively it's called The Souls of Black Folks. And the underlying message with that particular, bundle of shorts that he puts together is something called The Veil. And it's exactly what Lucas is talking about, that I might be somewhat older than the rest of the panelists, but it's something that we have to get rid of. It's that stereotype that, we've been talking about. And that veil that he alludes to is that in white society, the Black community is viewed in a certain manner, but we wear this veil that prevents us from seeing ourselves. We have this cover over our faces that prevent us from thinking we can be police officers, we can be in technology, we can do whatever we want to do. And one of the biggest accomplishments for me, working in athletics in all those years, was being able just to wander through the gymnasium and have those conversations with young Black men and women. Listen, I grew up in a very segregated town. I grew up with one parent. I grew up all of the stereotypes, to the point where when I got to high school, I was told college, yeah, maybe, even, that could be a possibility, but how about you look at a trade and not go to college, because that's not really for you. And having those conversations in the gymnasium allowed me to not only share my experiences, but let young Black men and women know that you can be whatever you want. Like, when you're standing here, people are looking into the gym and all they see is a tall 6'8" Black man with a basketball in their hand, but they're not having this conversation with you. They're not getting to know you. They don't know that you're taking a 3-year engineering course and you've got a 98 overall grade point average. So, you living the stereotype is only allowing them, or hiding behind that veil is allowing them the opportunity to put you in a stereotype. Learn to break away from those stereotypes. So I think just collectively over the years, and being able to work with college athletes and just students in general, and having those conversations about what you can and can't be based on what someone else said you can't or can be, has been just a wonderful experience. And I encourage the panelists to be able to have those conversations within the areas that they're working in, each day of the week with someone else who could be a Black man or woman, to have those conversations.
Thank you so much, Alex. The focus of my graduate studies is social justice. And one of the things I was blessed to learn last semester is the concept of internalized domination, where the society has told us who we are and are not for so many generations that we actually take it on and say, okay, yeah. And so it's like, did you know that if you cuff a baby elephant around one of its ankles to just a pole in the ground, right? And leave the baby elephant like that chained, the elephant will grow and not realize that it has more than the capacity to free itself, because it has internalized its captivity. And that's something I think we should all begin to think about, is look for the places where we've taken on, agreed with the stereotype, and begin to try to shake it off, and having those conversations. Thank you so much, Alex. So we're kind of getting to at that time. So if it's okay, I just wanted to quickly do a round table. Tell us about a Black individual who inspires you. Just a quick round table.
A Black individual who inspires me would actually be my aunt, who's not actually my aunt, but I still do call her my aunt. She has known my mom since she was 11 years old, and my mom, I believe she's 54 years old today. So she's known me since before I was born. And the reason why she is an inspirational an inspirational person to me is because she very well started from the bottom. She first started her early years in her career as a foster mom through the Hamilton Catholic Children's Aid Society. So she did that for years and years and years, as alongside owning and running a hair salon in downtown Hamilton. So that's definitely an inspiration for me, because she did those two jobs, again, started from the bottom, and has, been recognized in so many awards through the Children's Aid Society just for all her hard work, her advocacy for young children, Black children, white children, all types of children and their walks throughout life, but also being a business owner in downtown Hamilton and being so successful and having so much just respect. And being in there really shows me, when I go to the hair salon and when I spend time with my aunt, that I call her my aunt, it shows me that dedication and hard work can bring you to your goals and can bring you to places where you thought you could never be as a Black person, as an individual. So seeing her doing those things and just having the Black community come into the hair salon and have so much respect for her, everybody comes in and calls her mom, regardless of their skin color. They never call her by her first name. They always call her mom. And I think that's a type of respect that is only earned when you've shown your clients and your family just love and support. So that's definitely one of my inspirations.
That's awesome.
And yeah.
Thank you, Kendra. Lucas.
For me, it's quite simple. I think it's my mom first and foremost. The amount of challenges and struggles that she's felt and gone through, raising me and my brother on her own from a very young age, and doing it with such love. It didn't matter that we had nothing, because what she had and what she showed us was love. She is easily one of the strongest people that I've ever known. And when I think of like a strong Black person or a strong Black woman, it's my mom. You look at the disabilities, or the fact that we're on welfare, and the fact that she did it all on her own, or that we moved a few times, it was all on her own. And I never knew until I was at an older age what it is that she was doing, and how much she was doing with so little. And the opportunities and just the lessons and what she instilled in me are it makes it a very easy answer. And it's that's someone I just wish could be alive forever. But yeah, that's without talking for an hour, because I could easily, it's my mom for sure.
Awesome. Thank you, Lucas. Alex?
For me, if I could go back and just really highlight, the Hestons, the Lucases, the Ambers, the Kendras, these are the people for me who are inspirational, because they're at the forefront right now. These are the individuals that are breaking those stereotypes, that are saying, don't look at me with your eyes. I can be anything and everything that I want to be. And we talk about, and we emphasize, as we should, Black history, but let's not miss the opportunity to recognize Black now. The history that's being made right now by these people, like these individuals who are taking the bull by the horn and saying, listen, we're pretty active in our communities. We've got something to say. We're proactive within our residential community. We're proactive within our cultural community. And these are the individuals that are inspirational to me. And I applaud those individuals for really stepping up and being the spearhead and driving what we're talking about today.
Thank you, Alex. Well said. Amber?
So I had a few. In regards to inspiration, I'm gonna have to say both of my sons are the inspiration that I have every day, whether that's standing up for rights within the community, volunteering, just digging deeper to research and educate myself and make sure what I'm saying and what I'm teaching is correct and the history is correct. And, they are really the inspiration to, be within the community and not allow yourself to just put your head down and kind of get through it, especially in the last 3 years after the murder of George Floyd. And, that's opened up a lot of questions for us as parents and educators and everyone. And I wanted to bring light to a community member that does great work, Maxwell Francis. Some of you will know him. He created True Hamiltonian. It's a clothing apparel company within Hamilton. And it could be because I do have sons. Other than formal meeting, I don't know him personally, but if you look at his social media and what he teaches our community is great parenting, great father figure, and a great male Black role model, doing community work, volunteering, an entrepreneur. When I was thinking of people that are making a difference, I did want to highlight someone that's making a difference today and that has really made a difference for the past 3 years for the young men that are looking for someone to look up to. And I mean, they have a great father. I just had to note that, but he's white, so he didn't
Max.
get the yeah, sorry.
Max is awesome. Max really is awesome. Check him out, True Hamiltonian. He really is. Heston.
I guess my answer is similar to Lucas. It's really not just my mom, but my family in general. It's a very general thing to say, but I'm very inspired by my family's experiences and what they've done. I'm a very proud Trinidadian. I'm first generation Canadian Trinidadian. My mom and dad are both immigrants that came to Canada. My dad came here when he was 15, so he had his own experiences. I think he's very much Trinidadian and Canadian. And my mom came here when she was older, when she was around 20, 27, and she has her experiences. And my family, they just inspire me because there's a lot of history there. There's a lot of resilience. Coming not just to Canada, they went to America, they went to England. They did the whole migration through the Commonwealth. And for me, it's very inspiring because I just draw a lot of of inspiration from them. For me, I don't know, I draw very much a spiritual strength from just understanding my family's history and where they came from, because it really helps me understand where I'm coming from and where I might be going. For me, it's just a matter of continuing, to move forward, to try to do the best that you can to be as positive as you can. And I've drawn a lot of strength, especially from my mom and from my sister, who've had to go through a lot, and they've taught me a lot of things about how to navigate this world. And my aunts and my uncles, I've been fortunate to share a lot of knowledge with them, and to really just have a sense of community. So that's who I draw inspiration from, really, is my family.
Thank you so much, Heston. So this concludes the panel discussion. So just a quick question and Q&A period. If each of you, we received a question during the chat. If any of you could just give me a one book recommendation so that guests can continue to learn and educate themselves. Toss it out when you have a title. For me, Teaching to Transgress by Bell Hooks is a life changer.
Can't Hurt Me by David Goggins.
Thanks, Lucas.
I would say The Souls of Black Folks, W.E. Du Bois.
Thanks, Alex. And you're not under pressure to come up with something. If you do, you do. And I think also, Heston, do you have one?
Oh yeah, it's hard for me. You're asking a former English major this question. But
Where do I start?
I know, right? It's super hard. What comes to mind? And the Autobiography of Malcolm X for multiple reasons. I just think it's a very powerful work. Very important history, very important man. A man who constantly was growing up until when he died and made some mistakes along the way. And the way Alex Haley wrote that and reimagined Malcolm X's life through his own storytelling was beautiful as well. So definitely give that a check out.
Thank you so much. Amber, did you think of any? If not, no pressure, no worries.
Yeah, I would say for the people watching, I guess my most life-changing in my finance department would be The Wealthy Barber. I think that's a great book to read to kind of get your mindset, whether you're thinking of being an entrepreneur, starting off being one, or have been one for a while and just haven't read it yet.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Well, we're coming to the top of the hour, and I want to be very respectful of everyone else's time. I just want to thank each and every one of you for sharing space with us today. Thank you for your stories of courage, of resilience, of determination. I am truly blessed to have been given this opportunity to sit with you today, and I thank you for all your participation. Okay, I'll turn it back over to Lynn to dismiss us. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much,
Thanks for having
Catherine.
us.
And a huge thank you, Catherine, for leading today's discussion. And a big thank you, Amber, Heston, Kendra, Lucas, and Alex. We so appreciate you being a part of this important discussion. And there's just so many insightful and wonderful experiences that you've shared that we're all going to take away with us. Just seeing from the chat here, everyone is very thankful. So thank you to everyone for joining as well. And I hope you have a great rest of your day.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Bye.